Today we're going to make tessellations like the artist M.C. Escher. A tessellation is a design where the same shape fits into itself with no gaps. We're going to start with a 4x4 square cut out of cardstock. I'm going to have these ready for you if you are in class. Now I am going to cut from the corner, and I'm going to do whatever my scissors want to do, whatever I just come up with. I'm not really thinking about it, and I'm going to cut, and I'm going to come down and come out on the same side as I started. Again, I'm going to start at the corner, and I'm going to make a cut that comes out on the same side that I started on. I'll help you with this in class. But then you're going to take that shape you cut out of one side and you're going to use tape and tape it to the other side. You really have to make it match up exactly, even on the corner that we started on. I have you go from the corner just so it's easy to match up. If not, you've got to measure so it comes out exactly at the same place on the other side. Just easier to start at the corner. So I'm going to tape that shape onto the other side. Now I'm going to cut a shape from one of the other sides I haven't touched yet. Again, I'm going to start at the corner of the original square, that just so I can match it up, and I'm going to cut a shape out. Doesn't matter what you do, just make sure that you are coming back out with your cut on the same side as you started. Just do whatever you can think of. It will all work as long as you start at the corner and come out on the same side. After that, I'm going to do the same thing and tape my shape down on the other side, starting at the corner. Now here is my shape. It doesn't look like anything to me yet, but it will eventually. I've taken one shape out from one side and put it on the other, and taken another shape out and from one side and put it on the other. It has to match up exactly. Mine didn't exactly, so I am going to make sure that it's really starting at the corner. There, that'll work. Now I'm going to get another piece of paper and I am going to trace my shape, starting really anywhere on the page. Now once I have my shape traced, I can see with my cutout that it will fit together like a puzzle on the bottom, on the right, on the left, and on the top. So I am going to start tracing my shape over and over again, fitting it together like a puzzle until I cover the entire page with the same shape. It is okay to go off the edge. You want to go off the edge of the paper. And you'll eventually get a whole paper full of the exact same shape. Now, don't get discouraged if some parts don't fit exactly. They didn't when I did this. That's fine. You are not a computer, and you shouldn't feel like it needs to be super perfect, but it should look like the same shape throughout the whole thing. Just hold it steady, and you should be able to do this just fine. Keep tracing until you cover the entire paper with the same shape, fitting together like a puzzle. Now, once you've traced the shape, let's go over the lines with something darker. I'm using a Sharpie because I'm going to watercolor later, and I know that my lines won't get messed up if I use a permanent marker. So keep going, don't get discouraged, it doesn't take very long. You're just going to keep going until you see the whole page filled up with the exact same shape. In the next step, we're going to turn this shape into something, but for now, we're just going over all of our lines until we have a whole page filled with the same shape that fits together like a puzzle. Once you have all of your shapes together, you've got to figure out what it is. It might take a couple drawings. I finally came up with this kind of flying creature. I have lately sketched out my design of my creature, my flying creature, in pencil. And I put it all over the whole paper in every shape. And now I'm going over those lines with a Sharpie. I use a Sharpie because I know I'm going to watercolor later. And I know if I use a Sharpie, the lines will not fade or bleed. like they would with regular markers. So that's why I use permanent markers. You can also do that with crayons or pastels or something like that, that you can use watercolors over. But if you don't want to use watercolors, you could really use whatever you want for this. Take your time with it. Remember to fill in your design even on the little shapes going off the paper, because they will be part of a face or a foot or whatever it is you're drawing, too. And it'll really bring your piece together if you even get those. Now, tessellations can be fun. To me, this is the fun part, kind of filling in the details. And, take your time with it. It can take a couple sketches to get a good design in. I always draw a couple things before I'm happy with something. Stick with it, and perseverance is everything. I bet you'll be really happy with it if you just continue the same design over and over again. Don't cheap out and make an easy design, because you don't want to do it over and over again. These really look great if you just put some extra time in them at this step. Do your best to make them kind of look the same, but remember, you're not a computer, so they're not going to be perfect. And if you make a little mistake on one part, don't freak out. That's fine. This is not perfect. All of mine are not perfect at all, and I'm still going with it because I know in the end it will look all right. Now, once you have your whole page filled, let's start to add some color. Now, I'm going to use watercolors again. That's because I know that they will not fade my Sharpie lines. You can't do that if you use normal markers, but it's okay to color these with normal markers too. I'm not going to tell you how you have to color them or how you have to paint them. I think it looks nice if you do each one, each individual one, a different color, but other ideas can work well too. Take your time with this too. Craftsmanship counts. Make sure your coloring is intentional. Think about what you're going to do. MC Escher did tons of these. It's a fun way to make art. And I bet if you stick with it, you're going to have fun with it too. This is also one of my favorite parts, painting in my tessellations. And I think you'll have fun with it too. Stick with it. Perseverance is everything in these kind of projects. MC Escher made tons of tessellations. It's one of his favorite things to do. He did it for years. And if you're really interested in that, that's an artist that you should really check out, because he's one of my favorites. Tessellations are fascinating to me. It's like a combination of math and art. So you really got to think when you do them. It's a different way to do art. I hope you like it. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with, because some of my favorite things to do as a teacher is look at my students' artwork. So I can't wait to see yours. I hope you like making tessellations. I love making tessellations. I love seeing my students' tessellations. I think they look beautiful when they're done. And it's, if you break it down to steps like this and you go slow, you just keep going, it's really not that hard. You can do it. And I can't wait to see what you come up with. Bye, everybody. This is Mr. Walden, and I'll see you next time.